They laughed when I packed my bags, saying I'd never amount to anything without their support. My sister Sarah smiled like a queen, acting like I was the problem, the one who didn't belong. But what they didn't know was that I wasn't going anywhere. Not really. Before I go any further, if you love stories where the underdog wins and justice is served, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story is just getting started. For years, I was the forgotten one, living in a cramped apartment, working 2 jobs nobody cared about, while Sarah got the fancy house, the expensive car, and all the attention. My parents made it clear who their favorite was. Every family gathering was a reminder that I was an outsider, a failure. But while they were busy throwing shade and planning their perfect lives, I was quietly building something powerful. Every night after work, I locked myself in, learning everything about finance and investing. I started small, buying stocks, then real estate, slowly turning a few dollars into a fortune they'd never imagine. When they kicked me out, I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I smiled inside, knowing this wasn't the end, but the beginning of my real story. And then, one afternoon, the bank called my parents, right in the middle of a family dinner. They were shocked when the bank officer said I had just closed on a deal worth millions, money I had quietly earned without a single favor or handout. The same family who laughed at me now sat frozen, eyes wide as their golden child suddenly looked small and powerless. They thought kicking me out would bury me. Instead, it set me free. And now, I held the keys to a future they never saw coming. But this was only the start. What happened next? Well, that's a story for the next part. Ready to see how I flipped the game and took control? Just say, next, when you're ready. They still haven't recovered from the shock of that call. Mom's face turned pale, and Dad's usual confident smile vanished the moment he heard the number. Millions transferred into my account, completely off their radar. Sarah? She couldn't look me in the eye anymore. That perfect image they'd built was crumbling fast, and I was the wrecking ball they never expected. But here's the real twist. They thought I got lucky or had some secret help. Nope. Every cent was earned by late nights, missed parties, and endless sacrifice. I had built an investment portfolio from scratch while they were busy living off my parents' money and empty praises. I decided to attend the next family reunion. I didn't want to gloat. I wanted to watch their faces when they realized I was no longer the person they could dismiss. When I walked in, dressed in a simple but elegant outfit, everyone froze. Whispers started. "Is that Evelyn? What's she doing here?" Then Sarah tried her usual taunt. "Looks like the poor little sister thinks she's better than us now." But before she could finish, I smiled and pulled out the letter from the bank. Proof of the multi-million-dollar deal I closed that week. The room went silent, tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. My parents tried to cover up their shock with fake smiles, but I saw the fear in their eyes. I was no longer the girl they kicked out. I was the one holding the power now. Just as I thought the night couldn't get more intense, my phone buzzed, message from an unknown number. "You're not the only one with secrets." My heart raced. Who could it be? What secrets were waiting to come out? The story is far from over. Want to know what happened next? Just say next. The message haunted me all night. "You're not the only one with secrets." I stared at my phone, heart pounding. It wasn't a random threat. It was personal. Someone knew something, and they wanted me to know they knew. I had spent years building everything in silence, making sure no one had access to my financial records, my strategy, or my moves. So who was this? I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I drove straight to the bank where the deal had been processed. I asked to speak with my private account manager, Jason, the only person who had access to all my records. He looked up from his desk, eyes tight with concern. "I was going to call you today, Evelyn," he said, shutting the glass door behind us. "There's something you need to see." He pulled up a document on his screen. Someone had attempted to access my account using an old password, one I had only ever used once, years ago. But here's where it got weird. The IP address wasn't random. It was traced back to my parents' home. I sat there, stunned. Had they really tried to dig into my finances after everything? After kicking me out, mocking me, pretending I didn't matter? Were they now trying to take what I had built? "Changed all the locks, encrypted everything," Jason continued. "But Evelyn, you need to be careful. Whoever this is, they're close." That evening, I didn't go home. I checked into a private suite downtown under a fake name. I needed space to think, plan, and protect what I had created. I began reviewing everything: my old emails, passwords, files, contracts. I noticed small, almost invisible traces that someone had been tracking me for a while. But why now? Then it hit me. Sarah. She had always been jealous of the way I thought, the way I worked, the way I endured without anyone's help. When we were younger, she used to sneak into my room and read my journals. She even knew the name of the startup I tried to build back in college, the one that failed quietly, but whose concept I rebuilt into the company that had just landed the $3.8 million deal. Could she have used that knowledge? Was she the one who sent the message? I needed to confirm it. So I played a dangerous game. I invited my family over for dinner. It was the first time I had ever hosted them. They hesitated at first, but curiosity and greed got the better of them. Sarah showed up in designer heels, holding a bottle of wine like she owned the place. Mom acted sweet, while Dad asked passive-aggressive questions like, "So, how long do you think this little success will last?" I smiled politely. "I actually wanted to discuss something important," I said, pulling out a set of documents from my drawer. "I'm investing in a tech firm, one of the biggest I've ever backed. It's confidential, of course." Sarah's eyes lit up. "Really? What kind of firm?" I watched her closely. "Blockchain, something big. I just signed the preliminary documents. Of course, no one outside this room knows yet." The bait was set. If Sarah had been snooping, she wouldn't be able to resist this. I left the confidential folder out on the table and stepped away to the kitchen for a few minutes. When I returned, Sarah was seated exactly where I had left her, but the folder had shifted, barely noticeable, but I knew. She took the bait. Waited 2 days. Then it happened. A fraudulent investment offer using the exact fake name of the tech firm I had mentioned was emailed to one of my business partners. It traced back to an anonymous account, but the IP matched, again, to my parents' house. She had tried to steal from me. This wasn't about jealousy anymore. This was war, and I wasn't about to play fair. I hired a cybersecurity expert, tracked her entire digital footprint, burner emails, fake LinkedIn accounts, even a shell company she had created under a friend's name. I had all the proof I needed, but instead of going to the police, I waited. Because I had a plan, one that would not only expose her in front of the whole family, but show them exactly who they had chosen over me, and the stage for that revenge. My parents' 35th anniversary party. A night they planned to honor Sarah for her contributions to the family. They had no idea the real show was about to begin. Say, next, to see what happened at the party that turned everything upside down. The night of the anniversary party arrived, draped in gold and fake smiles. They held it at a luxury banquet hall Sarah had rented, bragging endlessly about how she paid for everything. My parents beamed with pride, soaking in the admiration of the guests. It was all about Sarah, their golden child. The one who succeeded, the one who saved the family's image. I arrived fashionably late, stepping out of a black town car, dressed in a sleek midnight blue gown. Heads turned, People who once ignored me suddenly whispered my name. "Is that Evelyn? She looks different." I wasn't just different. I was unstoppable. Inside, Sarah was surrounded by extended family, laughing as she flaunted her latest partnership deal. One she stole, straight from my lips. I watched her lie, smile, and take credit for something she didn't even understand. Then, just before dinner was served, I walked to the mic. "Can I have everyone's attention?" "For just 2 minutes?" I said, voice calm, but eyes locked onto Sarah's. My parents looked confused. Sarah froze. She knew something was coming. "I want to thank you all for celebrating this beautiful night," I began. 35 years of marriage is no small thing, and tonight we honor not just love, but legacy. And what better way to honor legacy than telling the truth, people murmured. Sarah's smile twitched. "You see, 3 weeks ago, I closed the biggest investment deal of my life, a $3.8 million partnership. But a few days later, someone tried to steal that opportunity from me using fake emails, false identities, and insider knowledge of confidential information." Gasps. My mother shifted in her seat. My father leaned forward. And here's the strange part: the digital fingerprints, the emails, the entire trail. They all led back to one person. Someone who had access to my private conversations. Someone who knew details I'd never shared outside our family. I turned. "Sarah, you knew about the deal because I told you in this very room, during dinner. And then, within 48 hours, a fake company was created. And here's the best part." I pulled a remote from my purse and clicked. Behind me, a massive screen lit up. A video played. Sarah in my home, going through the folder I'd left on the table, captured perfectly by a hidden camera I had planted just for this. The room went dead silent. My mother covered her mouth in shock. My father stood up, stunned. The guests looked back and forth, unsure whether this was a joke or some twisted performance. Sarah's face went white. "This is fake! She's setting me up!" But I wasn't done. I clicked again. This time, a document appeared. A full trace report from the cybersecurity firm, complete with dates, timestamps, IP logs, and email headers. My logo, my stolen concept, her fake shell company, her digital signature. I stepped closer. I didn't press charges yet. I wanted my family to see who you really are before I walk away for good. No one moved. Sarah's mascara was running. My mother couldn't even look at her. I turned to my parents. "You kicked me out to make room for her. You mocked me, ignored me, and believed in her lies over my truth. But tonight, I'm not here for your approval. I'm here to close the chapter. And then, one final twist. I've just bought the mortgage to this banquet hall. Effective next month, it'll become the new headquarters for my next tech firm. The contract is signed." Cheers. Applause. Stunned silence. Sarah ran out crying. My parents stood frozen, and I walked out with my head high. But little did I know, someone else had been watching, someone who hadn't spoken in years, and their message would change everything. Say next to find out who sent it, and why they waited until now. As I stepped into the cool night air, the weight of years finally lifted from my shoulders. The doors to my past slammed shut behind me, and for the first time, I felt free. But as I reached my car, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "I warned you. She's not the only one with secrets. We need to talk. Now." My stomach twisted. I thought I had tied every loose end. I thought Sarah was the final threat. But this wasn't over. I dialed the number. A familiar voice answered. "Hey, Evelyn." It's me. Logan. I froze. Logan? My cousin. My childhood best friend. The only person who ever truly believed in me, until he vanished 6 years ago after a mysterious falling out with my dad. I hadn't heard from him since. No messages, no contact, nothing. I didn't want to pull you into this, he continued. Voice low, serious. But you need to know the truth. Sarah was a pawn. The real game was being played behind the scenes. By your father. I blinked. What are you talking about? Remember that startup you launched in college? The one you thought failed because of poor funding? He said. Your dad blocked your investor. He made sure the deal never happened. He used Sarah to distract you while he quietly took parts of your business model and handed them to one of his friends. My mind reeled. No, that's not possible. Why would he? Because he never wanted you to win, Logan said sharply. He always planned for Sarah to take the spotlight. You were too smart, too dangerous, too independent. He needed you out of the way. I leaned against the car, breath shallow. My own father? All those years I blamed myself for the failure. It wasn't me. It was him. Logan continued. I've been gathering proof. Emails, voice recordings, contracts. I didn't reach out before because I wasn't sure you'd believe me. But after tonight, I think you're finally ready to see the truth. He sent over a folder, evidence that ripped through me like a storm. My father's signature on a deal that mirrored my first business pitch. Dates that aligned with the sudden silence from investors. A voice recording of him laughing with a partner. She'll crash, she always does. Then we'll hand it all to Sarah. I stared at the screen, pulse racing. I had thought this was a revenge story about a jealous sister. But now I saw it clearly. This was betrayal at the blood level. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I planned. I arranged a private legal team. Not for revenge, but for justice. Within days, I filed for ownership of the stolen intellectual property. I issued a public statement, exposing the truth behind the tech firm that launched off my original idea. The media picked it up instantly. Headlines blared across news outlets. Disowned. Daughter outsmarts family in multi-million-dollar tech takeover. Betrayed by blood. Evelyn's stunning rise from rock bottom to CEO. I didn't just reclaim my company. I built a new one. Stronger, smarter. This time, with my name on every wall, every pitch, every success. And I made sure Sarah and my father were legally blocked from ever benefiting from anything I touched again. But the most unexpected moment came weeks later. A small envelope arrived in the mail. No return address. Inside was a note in my father's handwriting. You were always the strong one. I see that now. I'm sorry. No money, no gifts. Just a broken man's final words. I didn't reply. Some endings don't need closure. Because I had already won. Not just the money. Not just the fame. But the respect I was never given. And the peace they never thought I'd find. And to anyone watching, let them doubt you. Let them mock you. Just don't ever let them stop you, because sometimes the one they kick out is the one who ends up owning everything.